Hi, Saturday edition, and I have got quite a lot of things to show you. And just as I started the video, someone starts mowing next door. I hope that doesn't come through too strongly on the sound. Okay, firstly, I cut one of these little soda cans up, and I forgot that this had the plasticized layer on the inside, but that's not the worst. This could really work okay for the bodywork, glued to some card or something. So I'm thinking this probably is not a bad solution for the wheelie yellow build. Just cut up a whole bunch of tin cans. You know, they don't have to be the right size for any surface. There was a lot of overlap and pieces, so I think that's probably good enough. Just need to figure out how I will glue that down. Contact adhesive, I guess, onto card. So far it's looking like a card and aluminium build. Now, while one could go and look for, you know, more fancy products like an aluminium coated sponge board or something, I think half of the appeal for this build is to build it out of the absolute cheapest materials possible. So that's looking okay. There are so many things here now. Okay, let's get this one out of the way. The vinyl tubing, which they supply with the cars and trucks and so on, is often quite a thick one. Now you can buy thin ones, like 1/2 millimeter, 1/3 of a millimeter, but I was wondering if you can actually thin this stuff. So we're going to do a quick test. Let's just see what happens. Okay, that did actually work to a degree. You have to be careful, of course, because it'll catch a light very quickly. Let's see. Okay, it's not very even. Let's see. Okay, I mean, it looks like you can thin sections of the vinyl, you know, depending on. It's, you know, it's a bit of a delicate one, and it can come loose, but I just wanted to know if you could get away with it at all. Okay, so too much heat just takes it off. That was a very good one. So that was quite warm, and I got a very good stretch of thin vinyl tube. Okay, well, I have never done that before, and I've had this tube forever. So you can get away with thinning sections. I mean, I've got lots of leftover of this from all the bike models. So now I know. And now you know. There's the Buccaneer, the Matchbox one, which I'm going to build without painting. I just quite like the 3-color. You know, there's a bit of thought that if you're going to build a nice model, you can build a far better quality choice these days, far better surface detail and all. But I still like a lot of the Matchbox and Airfix kits, and of course I won't build all of them without painting, but I quite like the idea of those blues and that just in the same in the manner that they showed it on their box, just built with the 3 colors. So I'm not going to paint this one all. That's going to be a very nice one, and I got 2 of those. So that's one of, because I realized that FX one doesn't have its decals. And then one of you suggested that they'd use this on theirs. They had a duplicate in the Matchbox, used on the Airfix. Well, exactly the same with me. So there you go. So that'll be coming up soon, because these builds without painting go quite nicely, quite fast. This Matchbox one is way, way, way better than the Airfix one. So that'll be a nice build. This Porsche, which I have mentioned before in the videos, you know, this is just nagging, because there's no reason for this to have just remained untouched for so long, and it's the bumpers, as I mentioned in the previous video, that have to go through those tiny little slots. See those two tiniest of slots there? So you have to fit it through and then attach it to the chassis. And it's delicate, and I don't like to leave parts delicate. It's the same as the horizontal stabilizer issue on the Phantom. I did the pinning and I made it movable, and it's a really, really robust system now. So I just want to see what I can do on this chassis to get the bumpers to go through and not just be touching on a very small surface area. I'm not exactly sure how this works now, in that once you've glued the bumpers on through the body, that's it. That's never coming off again. Whereas most of these cars, you can take the body off to still do tweaks on it. Which means I might actually do an approach where I'm not gluing it to the chassis then. I'm doing a mounting through the body work. We'll see what I can do there. Really do need to get moving on that one. Not a whole lot left to do on that. Okay, right. Getting back to this piece, I looked at it again, and I forgot to say something fairly important about this. You see on the sides there, the attachment to the sprue. Just one on each side, there at the top, quite obvious. So part of the decision as to whether I dechrome that is I would have to clean up that side, and I'm going to damage that chrome on the side there anyway. So I might as well dechrome it and paint it properly. So there you go, that's that decision made. Some of you have asked in the past why one would do that, okay, irrespective of that sprue mark, because it looks so nice with that. And it's only really once you've looked at sprayed chrome versus this I don't even know what the process is that puts this particular shiny plastic chrome on, but you then appreciate that this really is, it's bright, it's a little bit too toy-like. I mean, in some cases it does work, but the sprayed chrome and sprayed polished metal finishes are just a little bit better than that. Okay, the next thing that I wanted to speak on was the GSX 750 shocks. Now that's the standard shocks, and they do have this sort of shock in a number of the old Tamiya kits where it's just one piece spring and everything on, and it's really difficult to paint and it doesn't look that good. And I think I may have mentioned that I want to look at, I've already taken apart my CB 750s one. I cut them up and make a new one, so I'll be doing that as well for this, because it's just one of those things that's quite worth the better result. It's not difficult at all winding a spring out of brass. Very, very easy process. Well, you can either count these or count the ones on the actual bike. It's not to say that Tamiya actually represented the actual bike perfectly there. Use some tube and keep the pieces and bit of brass rod to give it rigidity and so on. So it's a far easier process than you'd imagine, but I will post pictures and get onto that one. I just wanted to show these, which I have shown before. The 3D printed, these are just files that you download from Thingiverse, and they're the biggest two busts that I've printed. No work, you don't do anything to that. You download the file, you set it up on your particular 3D printer and print. Now keep in mind that mine is a filament printer, so you get that resolution. I don't know if that will come through on there, but for instance, so you've got those lines, whereas if I do that way it's totally smooth. So you've got those resolution lines, so you get some very nice stuff that you can just download and print. But my 3D printer cannot go and print small models like that. There the resolution becomes so apparent that it's a pretty ugly model in that scale. Now what I do want to talk about working into this is this black base coat. So I've been mentioning in the model, in the videos, about the phantom pilots and black base coat and then white highlighting. So I just want to speak about that for a moment. I had said last, and I still say that that wasn't the best of moves, because the overall is that particular overall green, and the amount of black shadow that remains in a view of this pilot is actually somewhat insignificant, whereas on this one it's quite acceptable. That's a bit of a toned down black. This one is stronger. You can get away with it on that one. This is a 1/35th figure, and you probably still get away with it before the black starts becoming a little bit in your face. So when you get to the 1/24th, I don't think that that would be a good idea doing. I mean, of course you can, and you'll get a good result, but the question is, are the remaining shadow areas just a bit too dark? So the first point that I wanted to make was the difference between that black and that black. Just because you say a black base coat, you know, what black are you talking about? Because that's a very, very sedate matte black that may have been a Humbrol with a light dry brushing over it, and it's actually almost a light grey now, not at all in your face, whereas this one was the satin black, 85, I think it was. You know, in these very tiny figures, you get away with it because they are very small, and that contrast of white to black brings out everything that you wanted to see in the model. But the larger you go, that effect sort of starts not becoming the predominant effect. You know, in these little wargame models, even on a model like this, which his outfit and everything contains almost no black, that amount of black still plays totally well into the whole presentation of the piece, even though it's far from finished. So that's just got the first layer of purple over that cloak, and that would carry on working very well. The same with this wood elf. Now the wood elf probably does have a little bit more acceptable black in its shadows, but even with that bright green, the black doesn't attract. But that does change when you get to a phantom pilot. So there's a little bit of a changeover point at which I'll probably have to respray that, at which the black base coat is going to give you shadows which are just not really what you want. This is done with in fact, all of my buildings are done with a black base coat. So even though that wall, all that white surface wall, is completely overpainted, it still retains that you can do patchy paint work and get that darker black still giving you that effect coming through. You see in the cracks there, so and behind in the brickwork, in the roofing there, very, very usable effect in this. And this is wargame scale, so that would suit those wargame figures I was just holding up. So that one came out very, very nicely. This is just a plastic one from one of the Games Workshop sets. This is the little jail. This does also have a I think it's got a floor acrylic coat spraying over it. So even though it hasn't come out glossy, and I can't even remember how I then achieved that. unless that was just a quick spray. Don't spray too much and you don't get it glossy. If you spray more of that acrylic floor coat, it just gets a little bit too glossy. You can see that in some areas you're getting a bit more reflection. And this one, so this is just the upper floor of a hay loft. Well, sorry, it is the upper floor being the hay loft of a cottage where the living section would be underneath, and I couldn't see that right now. I don't know where that is. So this is one of those resin tabletop world, very nicely molded resin models. All black base coat, so that gives you all of that shadow recess work, even the wood grain, even on the windows, and you then just put a little bit of an orange effect to represent the candle lit. Very, very nice models those. I've got quite a number of them and I haven't completed painting most of it. And then this one. So these are molds which I put plaster of Paris into. Very, very nice walls for diorama. I molded myself quite a few of them. I sprayed this just with spray cans, so that is enamel spray, because this is a very, very porous surface. I sprayed this with grey, I guess just for the experimentation of it and partly to seal it. So if I still decide that I want a heavy black inside there into the recess before I paint it so that it ends up much like that cottage brickwork, I can still just do the black work, but this has almost sealed it a little bit. And then I was doing different effects with different types of stone wool, and I have a diorama in mind for this. So that just gives you a little bit of an idea. So this one would have a little bit less, somewhat less black shadow effect, and that one has obviously got a stronger. This is basically black with the white highlight with an absolute minimal brown final working. And this one has got, I can't remember if it had black. This one might have been done without the black or the grey and done with just browns. And it hasn't been sealed. And I've got a very nice diorama idea for these. Usually when I get into the mode of molding some, I mold quite a number of them. I've got some of those railway molds for stonework as well. Did I hold up that one? Can't remember if I held that up. That 1/24th figure. I was just gonna, yeah, I think I did. I was just gonna say that with that one I would probably do a spray base coat close to the color that their clothes are supposed to be, but a darker shade. Run a bit of watercolor, or yeah, probably not the inks. You don't want to put the inks on at this stage, to give a little bit of effect. Then do a bit of highlight so that you're not starting from the darkest of back, you know, shadow, the most backdrop color, and working forwards. You're almost starting more from a bit of a medium and then adding a little bit more shadow and a bit of highlight at the same time. This is one of the three guys that comes with the Trumpeter 1/24th Spitfire. This is not a model. This is one of those resin cottages that, this is not Lilliput Lane. This is, can't see the name there. Resin yeah, probably some sort of resin molding, and a quite, you know, sort of somewhat similar approach, and you can get an idea of that black recess color in the all of the cracks and nooks and crannies and everything there. These little small models can actually make quite nice subjects for dioramas. You know, you can give yourself the task of building a very small diorama with some of the ground scatter work, build up your little steps, build a very, very tiny cottage. I haven't done that, and I might actually do something interesting in that quite small scale, because that is, you know, looking at the cottage alone, that is a very small scale. That is probably 144th. Okay, let's get that one done, and if we're lucky, I might even get to a second video today. Happy modeling!